That's why I believe in you, because that is the greatest purpose. It's to love. Honest. It sounds corny, whatever you want to say. I don't care. I love people because there is freedom and power in loving people.
Hello, all you positive heads out there. Thanks for tuning your beautiful brainwaves into another episode of the Positive Head Podcast, where we are firmly convinced that creating success and happiness is rooted in understanding the ultimate nature of reality and the fact that as human beings, we are all immensely powerful fractals of the one and only source consciousness, which creates and animates all things. Now, of course, understanding this powerful truth is one thing. Applying this incredibly empowering wisdom to everyday life, well, that's another, which is exactly why we provide you with a fresh serving of soul food for thought 5 days a week to help constantly remind you of what matters most. You are it. And I'm your host, Brandon Beecham. I'm the one who will be here with you each and every Wednesday, interviewing a different consciousness changemaker that is also out there working tirelessly to help catalyze change and expand awareness all across Spaceship Earth. On the other 4 weekdays, you can hear me discussing topics such as my favorite thought-provoking quotes, reading and discussing wisdom from empowering books, playing clips from various inspirational spiritual teachers, sharing a bit of mysterious news, taking questions from the audience, and essentially digging into any other mind-expansive topics that will help keep your soul fed by tuning you into positive vibrations on a consistent basis. And you guys have heard me say that if I ever run ads on the show, it will only be with a company that I fully support because I believe their intention is to make a positive difference in the world. Well, I'm pleased to announce that day has arrived and that this episode of the Positive Head Podcast is being brought to you thanks to the support of Gaia. If you're not familiar, Gaia is the go-to source for streaming consciousness content online. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. All right, all you positive heads. On this week's interview episode, I'm very happy to have Taylor Conroy here with me on the show. Taylor is a meditating surfer obsessed with building businesses that make change. And super excited to have you here, Taylor. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Brandon. Good to be here, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. Ever since had your good buddy Mark Shapiro on, a couple months ago or so now, and he highly recommended that I get you on the show and started checking out all the incredible things that you're doing. And I'm like, yes, please. This is a perfect individual to bring on. And I'd like to open up with the same question that I ask everyone. You're in an elevator. You got 10 floors to answer. The guy next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" What do you say?
To be totally honest, if people ask me a deep question like that when I first meet them, I like to get as awkward as possible. The last time someone asked me a question like that, I said,
right.
Actually, I import all of the ayahuasca for all of the shamans up and down the west coast of North America. And they said, really? I said, yeah, it's pretty, I shouldn't be telling you this, but I've had a couple drinks and I was at a wedding. So that's right. Where I like to go with that, Brandon. Or one time I told someone that I actually manufacture key rings. And then I said I have a massive keyring conglomerate in Sri Lanka, and that we make 80% of the world's key rings. You know,
you're that guy. Okay, I get it.
Dickhead who's like, if you lay the heavy on me that fast,
right. But it's like going in for a kiss way too quick on the first date.
Like, chill the F out. But Brandon, let's say you had warmed me up, and I actually thought that you cared about the answer that I was going to give you. Then my genuine answer, deeper than making social change, deeper than building businesses. Building businesses to me is my art. And I love it more than anything. They're a living organism to me, and they're a universe that we get to create, and I love it so much. But I would say that my deepest passion is genuinely knowing in each moment that I'm having as much fun as humanly possible. And I mean that not from a standpoint of, Mr. Positivity, like, let's make sure we're having fun. I mean that I believe that the most service that we can do to the world and humanity and our society, et cetera, is finding who we are deep inside, living our own, Mark would say, authentically living our truth. Right. And that to me is the most fun thing humanly possible. And then the flow, which I know you like to talk about, positive paranormal activity and synchronicities, those synchronicities flow like mad when we're having fun and loving life.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got to this place of living your joy fully. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure. So, I mean, I was at my first career, firefighter, was fun, helped people, loved it. I couldn't believe I was getting paid to help people every day. It just blew my mind. Second career, I wanted to make some more money. I got into real estate when real estate was amazingly good. 2005, 2006 is when I got my license. Switched from firefighting to real estate. And if you look at this path, it's basically this, I don't know, hopping from stone to stone to stone, trying to find happiness, thinking that the first way is a stable job and a career that kind of gives back. And so that was firefighting. Realized, you know what, I've got this entrepreneurial bug. I want to do more. I want to, be able to make more money. Jumped into real estate, made tons of cash. I was a millionaire in my mid-20s. I had a house by the ocean, a whole bunch of different properties, the new truck, the motorcycle, like the furniture, all the things.
All the toys.
Stupid stuff. And I mean, it's not stupid. It was fun at the time. And then realized, okay, this isn't actually going to give lasting happiness. I know what it is. It's freedom. It's time. It's travel. It's new experiences. So I traveled the world for a year and had an amazing time, got back, started getting into social good initiatives, but I hadn't explored physical fitness was something that I really wanted to dive into. And so I became a bodybuilder, explored that, realized that there's genuinely no happiness, but nothing but utter despair and egomania in that. I like to learn that the hard way via steroids and basically bright blue band panties that I wore on stage in front of about 400 people. And I'm talking frosted tipped mohawk as well. Like it's just, it's a weird picture.
You got to send pictures.
Anyways, and long story short, landed after left searching for outward happiness in all these different ways, going to what we hear over and over again will give us happiness and fulfillment, which is service. And I started a company called Change Heroes. It was based on, people getting all of their friends to give us a crowdfunding platform for social good. And it went well. We got, 15,000 people from 80 countries all over the world, gave money. Wow. We raised $4 million. We funded hundreds of schools, water projects, libraries, anti-sex trafficking work, girls scholarships, tons of projects all over the world, impacting about 200,000 people, which was wonderful. And that's usually where a lot of people's kind of stories stop and they go, and it was great and it was very fulfilling. Here's the crazy thing is I swung the pendulum so far away from trying to find happiness for myself in outward directions. Then the pendulum swung so far to the other side to trying to find it in only making impact. All I cared about was making impact, and I completely neglected myself. I ran myself into the ground. I burnt out like crazy, and all I was thinking impact. I thought if I just try to make impact, then the world, synchronicity, the universe will reward me for that, and I'll be happy and fulfilled. And that's when I learned the hard way, or I don't know what. I just learned that giving completely fully of yourself at all times is not all it's chalked up to be. You definitely need to really find out what genuinely makes you happy first, and then that will help the flow of impacting more and more people. So after Change Heroes I started this company called Journey. It's a travel company, impact travel company, and it's basically an amalgamation of all the things I love in life. It's travel, it's surf, it's incredible service. We build homes for families all over the world. We just built our 100th home last weekend, which I'm super excited about. And we bring people on incredible experiences that in our minds, the whole goal behind them is to increase the empathy in that human being. Like our mission in life is to scale empathy around the world. And so we create experiences that are transformational and deeply rooted in service and in fun. We surf, we meditate, we do yoga, and we build homes all in the same kind of 6-day experience and ideally increase empathy along the way.
Wow. That's quite the story you have there. So is that your primary focus these days is Journey? And I'd love to hear a little bit more. You said 6 days of adventure. Actually, I think on your site, it was saying, begins with service, ends with a new sense of self. And I'd like to hear you sort of explain that.
Yeah, I think that, the service component of this is really interesting. We have about 60% women, 40% men, all typically between the age of 25 and 35 is where most of our travelers fall into. And they all have something in common in that they want to do something bigger than themselves. They want to do something that's going to pull them outside of what they're used to, and they can actually give back in a meaningful, tangible way. And we believe in not just getting people involved in, fundraising or just getting involved in kind of volunteering, but taking this holistic approach where people get to be involved in contributing monetarily towards the home that they're going to build. And then not just going there and kind of banging some nails, but we go there and we immerse deep into service where you meet the family that is going to be living in the home that you help to fund. You build it with them for 2 days. These homes are prefabricated, so they like the IKEA of homes. They go up in 2 days. And they're meant to get these people off living on the ground in a shack made of tin with 6 people living in it with no windows and no actual swing door, just an opening. So it's dark. They have to cook in there. They eat in there. They sleep in there. They breathe in there. Everything the same in this one little shack, and get them off the ground, away from pests. Give them locking doors, locking windows, a solid roof over their head, a solid foundation, and rooms, and the dignity that comes with having a place to call home. And so that experience is deeply profound for people. Not only have a lot of people not ever been outside of North America, but definitely haven't been into a community living on slum conditions and meeting a family that they realize by the end of those 2 days are very, very much, very, very similar to them when they thought they were going to be very different.
Right.
And, so we build homes for 2 days, and then so we build homes all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And the end of Sunday, let's say you, Brandon, came on the trip with us, you had helped, fund this home. You would hand the keys to the family and watch them walk into that home for the first time.
Wow.
Like one of my favorite key ceremonies like that was with this 94-year-old man named Senor Rodriguez in El Salvador. And I watched one of our travelers, Marlon, 40-year-old nightclub promoter from Vancouver, hand keys to this 94-year-old man who's still working full-time as a dairy farmer. And I watched them both break down in tears. And I knew that Marlon would never forget that moment of realizing that he can make this big an impact in someone's life, and that Senor Rodriguez's life would be completely different, from that day forward. And so we do that. After the key ceremony, we all hop on the shuttles. We go to somewhere amazing that the country has to offer. If we're in Mexico, we go to the mountains, and we go to this beautiful boutique hotel called Hostel de la Luz, like Hotel of the Light. And we do Mayan sweat lodges, we do walking meditations, we do, incredible hikes up to these pyramids, and give people 3 days of integration time where they can integrate what just happened. We'll have, we might have a facilitator there facilitating a workshop on intimacy and relationships, and basically just give people the tools and create the space that they need to process all of this information so they can go back home and integrate it into their lives in a seamless way.
Wow, that's intense. So how long have you has Journey been around? How long have you been doing this?
It's been around for a year. We formed a year, so January 2016.
Oh, wow.
And we started out with one trip to El Salvador. We just finished our 10th trip. And like I said, we built our 100th home for families.
Wow, that's a lot in a year, man. That's so incredible.
Yeah, it feels wonderful, and it feels like a flow. It feels fun. It's like literally the funnest thing I've ever done. And we have another 30 trips scheduled for this year, for 2017.
30 more.
30 more trips, yeah. So we're refurbishing schools. We're getting involved in building an amphitheater in South Dakota with one of our domestic journeys. And obviously, I'm sure you're very up to date on what's happening politically. So it's very important that we get involved domestically as well. And so we're working with the Sioux tribe in South Dakota in Pine Ridge, which is the poorest community in the United States, and helping them to build an amphitheater and talk about how they can raise their voices and get the word out to far and wide for what their community is going through, because now is the time for people to come together and not to make this all political, but for people to come together and make a difference right here at home as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously you're someone walking the walk, and, you hear all the time about how important service is. And as someone that's doing that on quite the scale, and it sounds like you're really just getting warmed up. I mean, and I love your story because you certainly seem like the extremist type, right? You've kind of went all in all these different areas and in a very short time. Why do you think it is that service is so rewarding as opposed to having, the Ferrari or the bleach blonde mohawk and big biceps?
Actually, they were huge biceps, Brandon.
Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to understate it.
Yeah, big, veiny, obnoxious.
Beautiful
biceps. Anyways,
very swole.
Yeah, straight up swole. I haven't heard that word for a while. You know what, Brandon? I don't know. We could talk about scientifically. We could talk about like the endorphin rush, the serotonin level. We could talk about this release, that this natural, drug cocktail that gets released in your body when you do something of service. And you can think to a moment when, a friend calls and says, "Hey, can you come and help me?" Whatever it is, not move. Move is just straight up annoying. You don't want to help your friends move, but maybe just help me through a relationship issue that I'm having. And when you do that, when you're there for someone and you help them, there's something that inside that just feels right. And you could talk about it being from the caveman days of we needed to help each other to stay alive. And therefore, we had a natural reaction, a chemical reaction in our bodies that rewarded us for, doing that act. Aside from, instead of doing something like buying a Ferrari. I never had a Ferrari, but buying something that gives that kind of temporary happiness. So I think there's a million different reasons why it feels good. In my mind, I'm not actually as concerned with why it feels good. My concern, my obsession is how do we package that feeling? How do we package it and replicate it and scale it? Because I'm guessing, you've probably talked to a lot of people on the show about, they started a cool nonprofit, or they started some sort of initiative, and chances are a lot of them have the same story. I was living XYZ life. I was a nightclub promoter. I was a banker, investment banker. I was doing whatever it was. Then I went on this trip to, like Scott Harrison, for example, from Charity Water, amazing nonprofit. I think they've given clean water to like 6 million people all over the world. And you listen to his story. He's like, this nightclub promoter went on this trip to Liberia, was changed, came back, started Charity Water, millions of people, clean water, bang. Same thing with John Wood from Room to Read, who's built, hundreds and hundreds of libraries all over the world. So we hear this story over and over again of people having this experience that changes the way that they look at the world and other people, and they have to do something about it. So they do, and they impact millions of people. And so we started thinking, is it possible to package that experience instead of it being like the one-off, the anomaly, the experience would be like, so, I don't know, it's like a unicorn type of experience. Can we package it and scale it? And so that's our obsession. Coming back to your question about like, why is it that it feels so good? Is my question is like, how can we take that package, put it into a little bottle, and give it to as many people as humanly possible? And that's really what Journey is all about, is getting people to feel it, instead of like, because your listeners right now, and I'll stop rambling in a second, is your listeners right now, a lot of them are probably thinking, I would like that feeling. I would like to have that, that deep connection, that sense of service, that sense of fulfillment. And before, it's like you try Google like volunteering abroad. Chances are you'll find something you have to pay $4,000 to go and hug orphans for a week, which does like literally makes no positive impact on the world whatsoever.
Other than the guy that sold you the $4,000 package.
Yeah, you're right. One guy gets it, and you might get a really dope ass like Instagram selfie that you can put on your Twitter profile or your Tinder profile and pretend like you're an awesome person. But you know what I mean? Like there has to be a bridge. There's so many people, and the people that are listening to your podcast are those people. There's so many people that want to make a difference in the world. They are making a difference in the world through their own way, but it's still freaking hard to do. We need to build a pathway. We need to make it easy for people to make a profound difference in the world. And that's, in my mind, you're doing it through stuff that you're obviously naturally gifted at doing, which is talk, inciting conversation, inspiring people to take action via your, sharing a message. And we want to do that by creating, incredible experiences.
So that all very, very inspiring, very, I mean, it's something that everyone, as you said, I think, and it's something that we talk about a lot on the show, why service, and how I believe that ultimately everyone's greatest sense of joy is going to come from some way, shape, or form of serving other people. And then, of course, we dig a lot into, as I call it, the ultimate nature of reality and spirituality on the show. And, I would say that it's, because we're all one, it's all reflections of self. The consciousness that animates my form is the same consciousness that animates Mr. Rodriguez's form, your form. It's all the same being. Separation is an illusion. So you'll find when you find the opportunity to give in any way to an extension of self, of course, that's why that, it's kind of like the karma principle, right? That's why how it comes back to you, either good or bad. What do you think about that?
what do I think specifically about karma or the reflection that we are all the same?
Yeah. Like the idea that service feels so rewarding. Yeah, we could talk about the chemical release and all these sort of ideas. Going deeper with it, the perspective that, hey, it's literally all an extension of self. And whenever you're giving to anyone in any, when obviously I can give $1 to the bum on the street, or the bum, that's a bad word, homeless person on the street, and just to kind of look good in front of the girl or something like that. That's one thing. And it's another thing giving from really pure intention, right? And from a very pure place. And when you're doing that, it seems, the message that you hear over and over, it's the most rewarding thing, brought me to tears. It's, and I would say it's because you're giving to an extension of self. And that's, so I'm just curious, as someone who's doing it on such a scale, and obviously, like I said, just getting started, curious what your thoughts are on that sort of perspective, that theory.
Yeah. There's an analogy that I really like to use in whatever it might be, a public speech or something like that, and that is, if you hold out your hands right now, and your listeners can't see that, but I can see you, so hold out your hands. I'm looking at you. There you go. So let's pretend your right hand got cut. You got a cut on like the palm of your right hand. Chances are what you would do is your left hand would come over and it would like clean it and bandage it and put some ointment on it and whatnot. Correct. And after you did that, the left hand would never say to the right, by the way, you owe me for that. If I ever get cut, you better be there for me, kind of thing. And the right hand would never say, oh my God, thank you so much, left hand. I appreciate it. I was such an idiot for getting cut. Thank you. I owe you. And the reason for that is because you and I can see that the right hand and the left hand are part of the same organism. It's easy just for us to see that on this plane are, the part of the same thing.
Self-apparent. Yeah.
And I'm basically just kind of reflecting what you're saying is that to me is the most beautiful feeling of giving, is when you're not actually giving, you're just doing, because it's the most natural thing humanly possible. You don't look at it as giving. You don't go down there and be like, you're welcome for that house. I sure made an impact on your life, or, your life is better.
What's
now
in it for me
at all. It's just like, this is just what you do. And I believe that whole path of diving in like the extreme into firefighting and real estate and bodybuilding, all of that was to get to the point of realizing, like none of this actually gives genuine happiness. It was like, ideally it was actually removing the I don't know, this outward need and getting to this place, which is, who am I genuinely deep down inside? And what is my most natural way of being? And my most natural way of being, the thing that makes me jump out of bed in the morning, is knowing that I'm going to have fun, obviously, and that everything that I'm going to be doing is of my natural self. And so, and when I think that the closer we get to our natural selves, the more we give. And I think that the less that we look at it as giving, it's just doing. You're totally right. If we look at the world as a whole, there's a lot of cuts on the hand. You know what I mean? We can't deny it, and it just happens I feel like when I'm grounded, rooted, and in my flow, giving, helping, connecting, whatever it is, that just happens, and I feel absolutely natural and beautiful because of it.
Yeah, very well said. Now, you and I talked a little bit before we started recording, and you said, one of the things that you're interested in discussing is sort of the dark side of all this. What leads you? Because all of this sounds so nice and so rewarding and so beautiful, and of course, there's sort of a dark side that leads even to the opportunity. And I'd just like to hear you expound on that. I was going to start questioning you, and I was like, no, I'm going to just wait until I turn the microphone on. So,
yeah, well, I mean, it's a really relevant topic at the moment, because we just got back from Nicaragua a week ago, and that trip was really, really profound for me. It was our 10th trip, and that's just on journeys. I've been on a ton of these trips to Kenya, Uganda, different parts of Southeast Asia. Filmed like this mini documentary in the red light district of Phnom Penh. So I've done gone on trips that are highly impactful a lot. But what was interesting about this trip is that I was completely shut off. There was like I had a shell around me. I didn't go to one key ceremony on this trip. We built 12 homes in 2 days. I didn't go to one. It was literally like I was removing myself from feeling. because it was like I didn't want to go to that place because it's really I didn't connect with any of the families. I really just kind of did what I was supposed to do, facilitated the trip, made sure everyone was having a good time, but subconsciously kept myself out of feeling. And it's because these trips are very, very impacting. They're very, very, for me, they're very deep because you connect so deep. When you connect with these people, you really have to admit, like, this is how a lot of people are living. And I can't change this. In my lifetime, I cannot change all of it. And that fucking sucks. That really hurts to like really have that realization it feels hopeless and despondent and depressive and all of the things. Yet at the end of the trip, I was talking to one of my good friend who works at our nonprofit partner, and she was like, "Taylor, what's up? You seem really pensive." And I said, "I don't know. I'm just not really, I guess I'm just having an off trip." And then I just broke down into tears because it all kind of hit me. As much as you try to not feel, you still feel. I'm still seeing all of the things that we're seeing down there. I'm still part of it and still meeting these families, even though I'm trying to stay disconnected. And it just had all built up. And I just cried and cried and cried, and then got back from the trip and cried some more. I was just super sensitive. And in that deep sadness, like that, what you might look at as darkness or whatever it is, that deep sadness, that hopelessness, that's so much energy. There's so much energy there. That's so much buildup. It's so much more, and it's so much more deeply rooted than we can go and make lots of change. You know what I mean? Like we can go make lots of change does not get you up at fucking 4 a.m. to make sure your list is done, to make sure that 800 more houses get built than we're going to get built before. It's a genuine mix. It's a rainbow of emotions that gets you out of bed and every single day to do this stuff. And so for me, the dark side takes a number of different forms. A lot of times it's deep sadness. A lot of times it's crazy amounts of anger that we're in the situation that we're in right now. Like you go to a lot of these communities and we deep down, that it does not need to be like this. There is enough food. There is enough housing. There is, when you get off the plane.
That's what drives me crazy. Yeah. We live on a planet that there's plenty of resources for everyone to live abundantly. And we've got this screwed up system that's 40% of the wealth with like 8 families in this country or something crazy. It's like, well, how did we get here? Greed.
Yeah. We got there. Yeah. Yes. And what sucks about it is that, again, we know that we're not going to change it all in our lifetime. And that sucks. And at the same time, somehow it's freeing. Somehow it lets us go, okay, well, if I'm not going to be able to change it all in my lifetime, then what can I do right now? And it's taking that deep sadness, that deep anger, and not slapping a smiley face on it, but taking it and going, okay, this is my fuel. This is like my jet fuel. How can I go out there and communicate in a genuinely authentic way so people grab onto it? Authenticity is like a magnet. When people like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You speak from your heart. You speak from a very deep place. And that's why so many people listen to your podcast, because you're speaking your truth. And when you can take that deep sadness and that emotion and wrap that into the motivation that you have for what you're doing, from personal experience, it's absolutely profoundly powerful, and it leads to incredible synchronicities because you get very, very clear on what you want, and you get very, very clear on, in those quiet times when you meditate on those feelings, what you believe the universe wants. What you believe the collective whole wants, and when you're clear on that and you're acting in accordance with that from my own perspective, then shit flows.
Right. So if someone wanted to get involved with one of these trips, how does that happen?
That would be fun. Well, first of all, Brandon, you need to come.
I'm already I've been thinking it since like our first 60 seconds or 120 seconds talking. Yes.
Perfect. I mean, it's really like, what kind of experience calls to you? In Mexico, we build homes. We're let's say next month is March. We're doing a trip to Costa Rica where we'll build 10 homes, March 10th to 15th. That trip is actually sold out. But the trip after that, March 31st to April 5th, is a little bit different. We're building a skate park for at-risk youth in San Jose, in the capital of Costa Rica. It's going to be amazing. We partnered with Red Bull and a pro skater named Ryan Scheckler. They're all going to come down, build this amazing $35,000 skate park. And we'll build it in 2 days. It'll be incredible, and make incredible use of a space that is totally wasted right now, and give kids something to do, to focus on.
That's going to take a lot of people in 2 days to do this.
Oh yeah, hundreds. We'll have hundreds of people there. It'll be absolutely incredible. And after that, we go to Manuel Antonio. We do some surfing. We chill out. We go to the rainforest. So that's the action sports journey. And then April and May and June, we're doing, Guatemala, Mexico, Nicaragua, more Costa Rica. We're doing Colombia in May. So I'm a massive advocate of finding out something that a place where you want to go. Don't just go because you want to be, I want to be of the most service. Where is that? Like, go somewhere that's going to turn your crank, that you're going to love, And
that self-love piece that you talked about earlier, it's such a key piece. You've got to have that, or you're not going to have any fuel for anyone else.
Exactly. And the excitement. So if someone wants to come, we would love for you to come, and we want you to bring your friends to come. And you're going to bring your friends if you're genuinely excited about it. They're genuinely excited about it. So, our site is wejourney.co. All the trips are up there, wejourney.co. And that's how you get involved.
Cool. So many things to talk about. I mean, you've done so much. You mentioned a documentary that you did. Has that been released? Is that something that you just shot and are going to release? What's that about?
The one we shot in Phnom Penh is one of the most heartbreaking experiences of my life. Not just the documentary, but how the whole initiative went down. I was so inclined to get involved with anti-sex trafficking work in Southeast Asia and in Cambodia. And that space is so hard to get involved in and support in a meaningful way. In my experience, a lot of the different nonprofits would argue over around who's doing the right work and who's not doing the right work. Are rescues relevant and safe and sustainable, or are they not? And et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it was actually hard finding a nonprofit that we can genuinely fund to make a really big impact. And so when we made this beautiful piece, we called it Sisters, and we brought these 3 women down to Cambodia who had raised $10,000 together to help survivors of sex trafficking. And it turned out really, really beautifully, but because of so many logistics and one of the nonprofits that we were working with actually collapsing during the initiative, we weren't able to fully release it and raise a bunch of funds for it. It's still very, very much on my heart. And at some point we'll get back to it in a meaningful way. But it's interesting when you want to do a lot of good. Sometimes barriers come up and it's not as easy as
timing's not right.
Think. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So now you've done a lot, and we haven't even touched on it yet. I mean, you've lectured at all kinds of places: Harvard, Princeton, UN. You do presentations for big corporate clients like Disney, Pfizer, Lululemon. What do you tell these guys? I mean, you're obviously a fairly young guy. You've achieved a whole lot. What is the message that you bring to these people when you speak? What's like and I'm sure you have different topics of conversation at different times, but what would be like the crux? What would be like the main, where all those rolled into one? What do we need to know?
Yeah, the 33-second version.
That's right. I'll give you a little longer than 33 seconds.
The message is really is similar to what we talked about. It's this journey of looking for outward happiness and trying to find it in all the typical places, not finding it, and then finding, let's say, a semblance of it, finding something closer to what I was looking for. And when I'm talking, it's interesting when I'm talking to Pfizer, we're talking like big pharma here. Okay. Like we're talking the big boys. And
you're right.
And it's so funny when I've done talks before at, let's say, with more conscious audiences, they'll say, look, Taylor, I read that you did a talk at Disney, or you're collaborating with Disney and Morgan Stanley and Royal Bank and da 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 da.
Explain yourself.
Exactly, and it's like, well, first of all, this is how on earth do you think we're actually going to make genuine change if we don't talk to the people that are running these organizations from the inside out? Like I would take a talk at Pfizer in a heartbeat, because it's giving me access to the people that are inside that company. And it's amazing because these people are yearning for it more than anyone else. They're yearning for something with more meaning. And so typically I'll go in and do a talk on social entrepreneurship and just teaching people, or not teaching, but sharing my experiences in the fact that you can build a business and take part in a business that can make massive social change. And I love this. I love the model of using for-profit vehicles to make social change, to make, really scale social change, for lack of better terms. So it's really about the story, and it might be curated a little bit for the audience. On if it's a corporate audience, then they will, a lot of times the person who's having me in will actually tell me, like, don't tell them stuff that will make them quit their job. you know?
Right.
And I'm like, okay,
Yeah, totally.
I'll leave out all the inspiring things.
But, you just ruined me. I'll see what else I can talk about.
the talks are a lot of have the same kind of mentality as our trips, in that we're not preaching some specific dogma or anything like that. We're really just kind of building the playground. You know, we're building the playground for people to come in, and what they do with it, what they do with that information, and what they do with those tools is totally up to them. And so the idea is, can you wake something up in someone that was asleep before? Can you wake something up in them, like intrigue them to do something a little bit different, to bring social good into their workplace, to raise funds for someone, to just wake them up to the power that they have inside them. Because once you have that, like once you actually taste it and you realize, like, let's say, Brandon, let's say you weren't Mr. Conscious Brandon, which you are. Let's say 10 years ago, you're just some real estate agent like I was, and you come along, you help fund a house, and you go and build that house. There's no going back, because you can't just go back to your workplace and go, okay, well, now I just impacted that person's life. Now I'm just going to go back to business as usual. You know, like you've woken up to something that you didn't know existed. And that's the whole goal with the talks. The whole goal with the talks, or one-on-one conversation, or talking in front of 100 people, or talking in front of 15,000 people, or taking you on a trip, the goal is the same, is to open something up that wasn't open before, to like create some kind of intrigue, and then let you do with it what you want to do with it.
Right. All right, well, now seems like a good moment to take a quick minute to tell those of you who aren't familiar a bit about our sponsor, Gaia. I've been a big fan of Gaia for many years now, which is why they're the only content provider I've ever reached out to in regards to potentially supporting the Positive Head podcast. So needless to say, I'm very excited they're now supporting the show. Gaia truly is my personal go-to source for streaming consciousness content on the web. They have an incredible 7,000 plus exclusive videos covering 5,000 years of wisdom. Just to give you an example, on May 1st on the show Wisdom Teachings, host David Wilcock explores the scientific proof of ascension, DNA activation, and how interplanetary climate change is made possible with nested spheres of energy emanating from the galaxy. I mean, it'd be pretty hard to be more up my alley, right? As you guys all constantly hear me say, it's a daily conscious effort to maintain an elevated vibration. And if you're looking to go deep down the rabbit hole to do so, then Gaia is the best place I know of to do it, period. And you can sign up for your first month for only 99 cents at gaia.com/positivehead. That's spelled GAIA.com/positivehead. Check it out. Yeah, it's one of those things that I definitely can relate to, that becomes a little bit of a issue, I think, for some people. And it's how do I make change versus survive in the world? You know, it's one of those things that, I can even say for myself, it's been a challenging thing to figure out as I've done this show. And as we've talked about, it's like the most rewarding thing when I get a message from someone saying, oh my gosh, I've been listening for 2 months now and my whole life has changed, or, any type of positive feedback like that, where you're really making an impact is there's nothing that I've experienced that's more rewarding. And then on one hand, it's like, I have such big visions of things that I want to do that take a lot of financial resources. Yes. So I still have my hand in company that it would be traditional, so to speak, as far as, so I think with a lot of people that becomes a challenge. And I know for me, like I said, it's been like, where do I put my energy? Am I doing I've definitely questioned myself, multiple times. Am I doing the right thing? Pursuing something with any of my time, effort, and energy that's not necessarily directly related to helping others or raising consciousness, but there's so much financial potential that it's like, okay, a year or two of this, and then I can use these resources. Yeah. So how do you sort of deal with those, how do you recommend someone deal with that kind of conundrum?
Yeah, and I appreciate that question so much. I think, you and I and so many other people wrestle with that all the time. And it's probably the number one question that I would get is like, I want to be doing this, but I need to survive, et cetera, et cetera. Well, coming from a place of survival is not good. It's a tense, constricted, lack kind of energy that you're kind of carrying around with you if you are in that place. And so I would say, if to kind of put this in a really small version, just based on my own experience, what's been the most helpful to me is to know exactly what is enough. Okay, what is enough from the monetary? standpoint, from a monetary standpoint. And what I mean by that is, for me, I take a lot of time to sit back and I make a lot of lists. I'm a Capricorn and I like to make lists. And I make lists of, to me, what defines a happy life for me? What defines a comfortable life for me? And for me, it's very simple. I want to eat healthy food. I want to have the supplements that I want to have to keep me healthy. Health is a big thing for me. I want to be able to work out and surf and make sure my body's healthy. And this from a monetary standpoint. Obviously, I want my family to be healthy, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just saying, for me, like, what do I need money for?
Right, personally,
it's healthy food. It's a clean, comfortable place to live in, and it's being able to have transportation to where I need to get to. It's pretty simple. And that's for this point in my life. And I think that deciding what is your enough for the rest of your life is very daunting. Like, how much money do I want to make per month for the rest of my life? It's impossible. So I like to chunk down my life into a year-long chunk. So right now I'm 35. When I was 28, I sat down and I said, okay, for the next 4 years, I'm going to stipulate exactly how much money I want to make per month. And I'm not going to change that amount for 4 years. Because I'm not planning on having a family within the next 4 years. That's when I was 28. I'm not planning to have a family. And I wanted to kind of stop that more mentality that was like in my head all the time. Like, well, I want a little bit bigger house or a better car or a better motorbike or whatever it is. And so I just decided at that point what was enough for me. Yeah. And what's fascinating about it, what was absolutely just surprising to me, is that not only did that stop the more when I said, this is how much I'm going to make per month, or I want to make per month for the next 4 years, ever since that day, that enough has gone down and down and down and down. Wow. And my enough now is roughly $2,000, between $2,000 and $2,500 per month.
Wow.
And that's a lot less than what it was when I was 28. When I was 28, I was making big cash. I was a real estate agent, right? I was like, I wanted $10,000 a month. I was like, us guys, I haven't heard that many women just come up and be like, I need to make $10,000 a month. Women typically come from a more realistic standpoint. They're like, well, I want to feel taken care of and secure and safe. Where guys, we have these like weird ambiguous numbers. I'm not trying to be sexist. I'm sure lots of women have weird ambiguous numbers too.
Right. You can jump on board with that if you want.
Yeah, but I mean, I've had that, like, gone through the weird ambiguous numbers. I've had that, and you realize that it's not about the number. It's like, how do you feel inside? Are you taken care of? So for me, I love being as minimal as humanly possible, because that allows me to spend more energy on the things that I love to do than on trying to generate revenue. And I want to make sure I'm not rambling and getting kind of succinct to your point here. Is it's always going to be a balance. My transition from firefighting to real estate took a year. I did both for a year. I didn't like just jump ship and become a real estate agent. And going from real estate to social good, that took another year. There was a conscious year of, okay, I'm taking a year to transition out of this business and into this next one. But it's really just a matter of getting really clear on what's that milestone. What is the number that you want to hit before you transition fully into being the podcast guy? And just getting very, very masculinely clear on what needs to be in my bank account, how much do I need to have per month, et cetera, to make me do this move. Instead of, I really want to make this move, but I don't know when it's going to be possible. Sit down, make a list, define it, and then once you get there, hold to it and make the jump, but only when it's ready. Yeah, no, that's great insight. You're working on a book as well, right? I mean, I don't know. What does working on a book mean? Sometimes I know. I say the same thing. I can relate to your answer. when I'm working on 2 books, kind of. Well, you said you asked questions about synchronicity. I'll tell you this: the book thing is just kind of a funny story. It was too synchronistic to not start to work on something, because there's a while back, this woman reached out to me and she said, "Hey, I hadn't talked to her for like literally six or 8 years. And so I knew her in like a former life, in my real estate life. She reaches out to me and she's a very intuitive woman. She says, "Hey, Taylor, I know we haven't talked for about 6 years, but I have the intuition to invite you to this event happening in Los Angeles. It's happening, in 2 weeks from now." And I was living in Canada at the time, but I happened to be going to Los Angeles literally for that exact day. And I was like, well, that's too synchronistic, pass up. I said, yeah, I'd love to go. So I go to this thing. And long story short, it's this kind of like master healer, very well-known author guy who's doing a presentation, and he does these healing calligraphies that are worth like millions of dollars. He does these healing calligraphies that these Chinese billionaires buy, and they pay millions of dollars for these calligraphies because they heal, et cetera, et cetera. I know I'm just
I haven't heard about this.
I'm making this story very fast. But
who is this?
It's a guy named Master Shah.
I'll have to look him up.
Look him up. He's got a bunch of best-selling books and yada yada. He seems. I haven't done any work with him personally, but the reviews that I've got from him have been very, very positive. Anyway, so we go to this event, and the room is filled with a bunch of bigwigs and celebrities, and then randomly me at the back of the room, and. Right. At the beginning of the night, they say, "Oh, by the way, Master Shah is going to make this calligraphy, and it's this incredible healing calligraphy. And at the end of the night, we're going to draw names from a hat, and one person is going to win this calligraphy."
Oh.
And the first thing that pops in my head is like, where am I going to put that thing? It's huge.
Yeah.
Like there's literally no thought of, I hope at all. I was I don't even have a house. Where am I going to put this thing?
Yeah.
And anyways, at the end of the night, long story short, pulls the name of the hat, Taylor Conroy. I walk to the front, and my friend, this woman, she starts freaking out. She's like, everyone in this room was invited very specifically because you're my friends and I know you. Taylor, on the other hand, I haven't talked to for 6 years, and he just wins this calligraphy. This is incredible. Taylor, tell him what you do. And so I told him the 3-minute version of Change Heroes and what we get up to and whatnot. And this guy walks up to me afterwards and he says, "That's a book." He's like, "You have to write a book." And I was like, I don't know. I'm not really a writer. And he's like, no, you have to write a book. He says, "It's going to be called 333. And I said, okay, I have 333 tattooed on my wrist. And
oh, wow.
He says, did
he see that?
Yeah, because I told the story about Change Heroes. It was all based around threes and yada yada. And and I said, okay. I mean, if this guy's saying it, and this guy is not just a guy; he's a literary agent for Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, and I believe Neil Donald Walsh as well. So when a guy like that comes up to you and says, "You're going to write this down," you write it down. So right. Anyways, so very, very humbly, I've been taking a lot of notes on what I would write a book about. I don't think it's spicy enough yet, to be totally honest. It's not ready.
Yeah.
Like I haven't got, I don't know if I would read it if it was me looking at the book, but at some point a book will come out, probably in 10 years. But, but I guess I'm taking notes. Yeah.
Right. So that was going to be my next question. And that's a really cool, synchronicity story there, actually. And I'm really curious to see this guy's work. I am not familiar with him. I'm surprised. But why 333? Curious about that.
I don't know. I could ask you that question. It's literally, it feels like I have no idea. When I look at the number 333, I think it's more beautiful than any flower, than any landscape, than any sunset that I've ever seen. It's a deep rooted affinity for it. And it's showed up in my life in so many, I don't even know how many ways, millions of ways, let's say, all the way to the point of my last company, Change Heroes, was based on 33 people giving $3.33 a day for 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Which adds up to $10,000. And I was obsessed with it. I can't ever get away from threes. When we first started taking on investment, my dream was to have 3 investors give $333,333.33 to $1 million. It's just an obsession and just a deep love for this number. And, we ended, that's where we had 15,000 people from all over the world give $3.33 a day for 3 months. Cool. When you're a guy that loves threes, there's nothing better than that. That's why 333 in a nutshell.
Yeah. Very, very cool. So curious, of course, that was a pretty good synchronicity, a really good synchronicity. You have any other stories like that? Oh, we're always suckers for that on the show. Any stories of synchronicity, serendipity, positive paranormal kind of stuff? Yeah. I like to geek out on that. Would love to hear if you have anything more up your sleeve.
One that I really love to talk about is, and I'll tell you about it, but the reason I love to talk about it is because it shows that synchronicities can lead to a lot of uncomfortable things too. Like, it's like, be careful what you wish for. And way back when I was literally first just starting to dive in, I had only come up with the idea for change shows. I'd only come up with the idea for 33 people giving $333 a day for 3 months. But in my head, I was like, this is going to work. I guarantee this will work. And I thought, I need to get the word out. And I had always had a dream of giving like a TED Talk, and it was mostly from an ego place. Like I want to stand on the red dot and give the TED Talk and tell everyone how smart I am. But at one point, the girl I was dating at the time, who's an incredible being, nominated me to do a TEDx talk. And I talked to the organizer who says, yeah, I want you to do this TEDx talk on entrepreneurship. I want you to talk about entrepreneurship. And I said, no. I'm going to change the world. We're going to do I've got this idea, fundraising, $333 a day for 3 months. And he goes, no, it sounds gimmicky. You're not allowed to talk about that. I said, no, but this is what I'm like living for. And he's like, you can talk about entrepreneurship or you cannot do a talk.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. And so I decided, I wrote this talk on entrepreneurship. I submitted it to him. He said, perfect. That's the talk you can do. I said, great. And then I crumpled it up and threw it out and decided I was going to do the talk on the 333 anyways.
Oh, wow.
And so
ballsy.
Yeah. I mean, like, what is he going to do? Rip me off the stage? And, and so I went and I did the talk on the 333 school building. It was to raise $10,000 to build a school. That was the whole shtick. And did the talk on that. And because of doing that, because of like really holding to what I knew to be true, it was like the floodgates opened. It was like the world was collaborating or, working in my favor to get this message out to as many people as possible. And I'd always thought, I need to get better at public speaking so I can get this story out. And so from there, this TEDx talk, I went to this conference at Harvard on social entrepreneurship just to attend. I mean, I barely graduated high school. It's not like I attended Harvard at all, but a friend of mine invited me. So I went there and I only talked to one person the whole time I was there. And it just happens to be that she was the organizer for speakers at Harvard's largest annual conference. And, and I sent her the TEDx talk and she said, hey, I love it. I circulated it through our office. Would you like to come and do the keynote next year at Harvard's largest conference? And so that would meaning my first ever public speech was the TEDx talk. The second one was supposed to be at fucking Harvard. And I'm literally so nervous. I said, yes.
You gotta be.
I'm like, oh my God, yes. But I barely made it through the TEDx talk without throwing up on stage. Like I was petrified of public speaking. And so then did the Harvard talk. And I literally didn't even get off the stage. And this woman comes up, she says, that was really amazing. Can you come and speak at the United Nations in, 3 months or something? And I was like, oh God, what? So this whole time, that's like the synchronicity of like really, it was just like pushing myself, yet it made me incredibly uncomfortable. I would say for about 2 years straight, because this kept happening, bigger and bigger speaking engagements. Then it went from there to speaking in front of 10,000 people at this event called We Day. And then it went from speaking at 5 events with 10,000 plus people. Like it just went bananas. And the whole time I was nervous. I was petrified. I was attending Toastmasters. I was reading books on how to get good at public speaking. It was impacting my relationship in a really detrimental way because I was nervous all the time because I always had a talk coming up that I was super nervous for. But synchronistic. I mean, it's as synchronistic as they come, for me anyways, and it just shows that when you get into that flow and get into something that's not only in alignment with what you want, but is deeply in alignment with what ideally humanity wants, stuff gets big really fast.
Absolutely. It makes me think, I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt said, do something every day that makes you feel uncomfortable. In this case, this is like pretty, I could see how that would make anyone, obviously you're a very well-spoken, very confident guy, very successful guy, but I could see how who wouldn't that make nervous? Like Harvard, you think, or 10,000 people, it's like how many smart people are analyzing everything that you're saying and doing.
And it's so, public speaking is hard, man. When I first started doing it, it's like I would get dry mouth and red up the neck. And it's like literally 3 years of completely nervous before every single talk. To finally, I feel like I've more or less gotten over it right now, but I still get nervous, but I kind of ideally transfer it into excitement. But I think for anyone who's listening, I get that request a lot of people talking about public speaking. I think it's a matter of, can I give one tip, Brandon? Because this really worked for me. Was like for people that are getting good at doing, wanting to get good at public speaking. For me, it was replicating the feeling that I would get on stage, because the feeling that I would get on stage was awkward, very self-conscious, worrying about what everyone thought, And so I recognize that you don't have the opportunity every day to get in front of 100 people, but you do have the opportunity every day to make yourself feel crazy fucking awkward and self-conscious by doing things that make you feel that way. So I would force myself to just do things that just made me feel like cringe inside. Like I'd be on an airplane if I was going to go to a talk, and I'd be on an airplane and I'd force myself to do lunges up and down the aisle and stare everyone in the eye as I lunged by them. Like just look at them right in the eye and they're like, what? Because they can't move, right? They're in their seat. They can't move, look away from you, and you're staring at them. Or, I remember one time I walked up to this table with 4 attractive women. I forced myself to sit down at the only open seat at the table and stare at them for a minute straight, not saying anything.
Oh my God.
Which is like, but if you get comfortable with feeling awkward, then you get comfortable with public speaking.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, it's a totally different, I haven't done a ton of public speaking, certainly not in front of 10,000 people or anything like that. I can sort of relate it to, being in a band at one time and performing in front of more and more people as we sort of, our following grew and things. At first, it being sort of nerve-wracking. And of course now, this show has grown a lot, having some days, over 10,000 people listening or whatever. Incredible. But that's way different because it's still the same. It's just me with a microphone. So it's a totally different animal if you're standing there and looking at all these, you picture them all naked or whatever. So I like your idea.
Totally. No, I have so much respect for what you do, and I'm sure, as do all of your listeners, it's absolutely wonderful, the gift that you're giving to the world. So I really appreciate it.
Well, it's definitely a labor of love, but it's not nearly as nerve-wracking as doing that. So I know that's something that I will be doing more of in my future. So public speaking. So you'll probably get some weird hour call from, hey, dude, what was that tip again? What do I do? What do I do so I don't piss myself?
Dude, you got to do all of it. I did like emotional tapping. You know the tapping where you do the tapping?
We actually, I've had Sonia Sophie on who, with the World Tapping Circle, and have actually done like a cross promotion thing with her.
Hypnotherapy, tapping, all of the things. Just got to do what you got to do.
So funny. Well, so one thing that we also you mentioned briefly before we actually turned the mic on that I want to hear more about is using plant medicines or hallucinogens or whatever you want to refer to it as. How has that played into your path? Because this is something that, of course, is a hot topic now. A lot of people are experimenting. Sure. Hear a lot about, ayahuasca and things like that. And so curious if that's something that, just in general, what your thoughts are.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say some of the deepest, realizations that I've had have been from using medicine like that, from all different types of it and all different types of environments. But I think it's maybe I'll try to think of an example. DMT. I'm not sure.
Just go to the father of them all, right?
let's go. Some experiences with DMT have been some of the most profound moments of my life, and it's so hard to explain why. I guess it gives such perspective. It gives such, I guess on many levels, healing. And it's played into what I do professionally in an incredibly massive way. My work with ayahuasca, one thing it showed me is like how massive my ego is. It took 7 times before I really had a deep experience with it, because I had this massive shell of an ego on. And then once the experience was had, it was, again, one of the most profound experiences that I've had, and humbling. And all I can say is that the giving nature of the plant medicine is something that I aspire to emulate. It's something that I want to be able to give the way that plant medicine gives. I want to be able to give in that way because it's genuine,
transformative.
It's transformative and it's pure healing, and with nothing asked in return.
Right.
So it's an inspiration to me on many levels, and something that it's something that I partake in when called to do it. And I have incredible respect for that kind of, for that whole sector. And I'm a massive advocate of other people partaking when it's right for them too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's certainly not for the faint of heart and not necessarily for everyone, but it's one of those things that once you've gone that route, it is very, very impactful and certainly perspective shifting, I would say.
There's not really any going back. And one good example, even as a very mild, looked at as being very mild medicine, is marijuana. I live in California and it's legal here. And I've got a close friend of mine who has Lyme disease. And so he gets lots of inflammation in his head. And for months and months and months and months, the guy's in pain and just agony all the time. He started smoking weed, gone. Inflammation gone. Another good friend has Crohn's. 9 years he basically spent on the couch in pain and agony after almost anything he would eat. He started taking CBD and he says he's got a new life. He's surfing for the first time. He's just, these things are here for a reason. Almost every pharmaceutical drug in existence at the very beginning came from a plant compound. These are the most natural healing mechanisms that we have available. I think they're obviously, as you know, they're very far underutilized. And I think it's a beautiful thing that they're becoming mainstream, that you and I are talking about it, that people are listening. Some people are listening and having the reaction of, oh, I would never do that. Other people are having the reaction of, yep, would love to do
curiosity,
that. Curiosity, or I'm doing it right now. And props to you guys that are doing it right now. But
exactly.
I think it's a beautiful thing that it's spreading, and I think it will only spread more and more. And I think it is going to play an incredibly wonderful role in the evolution of consciousness that we're taking part in right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree. And, that's something that I guess I'm curious about, having traveled to so many different places and where there is so much need. I mean, do you feel like the awareness, certainly in the States, and you and I are actually you're in the LA area, right? Yeah. So you're very close to me. I'm just in Orange County, but actually planning to move to your neck of the woods, Venice, within the year.
Cool.
But do you feel like, and of course you're here as well, so there's such a sort of with transformational festivals and so much of this sort of consciousess that is permeating everything, especially in our area, but really all over in the States. Do you feel that same thing sort of happening in other areas, or is it such, where you're at such a base level survival that there's not even much time to focus on that sort of thing?
Oh no, I believe it's happening all over the place. I think I've seen it happening all over the place. I was just in Costa Rica a couple days ago, and hearing about all of the different ceremonies that they've got there that are taking place. Or this woman, this incredible woman who's studying the Toltecs. People would know that probably based on the book, what is it called? The Four Agreements.
Yeah. I had Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. On the show a few months ago, or maybe 6 months ago. So,
and she's studying Toltec wisdom. I think that it's prevalent in any country that we've been to. We have a very globalized world, and it actually comes from those places. It comes from the places that I'm going to, right? Like, we're building homes in Brazil and Colombia or wherever it is. And it's like, we're way behind the 8 ball as far as they're concerned.
Right.
They're like,
I've heard them. Yeah. In some cases they refer to the white man as little brother. We're like so technologically advanced or whatever. But totally. In the spiritual sense, it's like there's been an immaturity that, that
absolutely.
They've known for forever, and we're sort of catching up.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. It's so tempting and easy to jump into, go from like one ceremony to another course to another personal development book and blah 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 and all the conscious communication and yada yada. When in reality, I believe it's such a need for time to integrate and time to practice and time to like genuinely bring that into day-to-day life. And because you can see people kind of go potentially off, or maybe they're more advanced, but sometimes can look like they've gone off the deep end and going like, all is love and all is beautiful. And it's like, I totally appreciate that. I'm with you. And we're living in this reality right now. And in this reality, this as being as present as possible in this reality is like such a gateway to incredible beauty and presence and love and all the things. But, I think it's so important for us to dive in and do the work, and doing the work, like we talked about before, is like not just all the light. I don't know if you read Osho. I'm sure you've read a bunch of Osho before. But,
yeah, I love Osho. Yeah.
Like one of my favorite Osho quotes is that, a tree cannot grow to reach heaven unless it has roots that have grown to reach hell.
Yeah.
You have to have that stability, that counteracting, that balance. And one good example is like last night, I was talking to my girlfriend and having a really open conversation with her. I wrote down this list of all the things that I would not want to tell her.
Right.
This list of here's the most awkward things that I don't want to tell her that go through my mind every day. And I told her, I said, I'm scared of being 60 and me not being attracted to you. And all the things that
really
as a guy,
vulnerable, blunt things that you would normally hide. Yeah.
Blunt things that we would hide because we don't want to hurt someone, when in reality it's like,
or shame on our end.
Shame on our, exactly. And that's the work. I don't know. That's what I love more than anything else. Go there, go to that place that makes you, it makes your ego go no. And be like, you're fucking getting it, ego. And it sounds like an ego doing it, but anything, I know it's totally wrong, but anything in alignment with what my favorite book right now is The Surrender Experiment.
I'm not familiar.
Have you heard of Untethered Soul?
I have.
So it's the same author as Untethered Soul, and it's his story. And it's his story of how he got to the point of writing Untethered Soul. And it's so fascinating. It's one of those books, Brandon, that, you think if everyone just read this, we'd have world peace. That's one of those books. I'm just raving about it to everyone. I'm listening to it again for the third or fourth time right now on Audible.
Oh, wow.
And it's just profound, and it's about surrendering to life, no matter what the voice in our head says. And this is counteracted to so many conscious circles that say, "Be clear on what you want, set your intentions, and go for it, and make a fucking vision board. And then when you get it, then you can be happy." That's all. That's not all. A lot of it is bullshit. A lot of it is us catering to what we think that we want, when genuinely, what I believe is, the more that we merge with what the universe wants, the more that we merge with what consciousness or humanity wants, the happier that we'll actually be. And that doesn't come from making a vision board.
Yeah, I talk about this a lot because it's such a key point. It's like, for me, what I believe is, okay, so you can have goals, you can have aims, you can have intentions, set that, and then release. It's something that Esther Hicks, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her or not.
Sure.
She talks a lot about, it's fine to put that out there, but then let it go, surrender to it, and not needing it to show up in any particular way. Because a lot of times what you think at a conscious level is best for you is a fraction of what really, it's like you're seeing the tip, you've got, your vision is so limited compared to higher self or source or what have you. So let it go, and then let what really should happen flow in. And if it's completely contrary to what you set the intention and vision board for, then love it. Wrap your arms around it.
Exactly. And ask why. Why am I putting this on my vision board? Why do I want $10,000 a month? Why do I want a red Ferrari? Why do I want those things? Where is that want coming from? And I truly believe, one of the most profound book I've ever read is Autobiography of a Yogi. It's my favorite book of all time. It's the best thing since sliced bread in my mind. And that's actually the guy. What's that?
I've heard of this, but I'm not familiar with it either.
Dude, mind blower. Wow. It's incredible. So, and in Autobiography of a Yogi, there's this quote that says that attachment is the chain that binds us to the karmic wheel. And so therefore every human wish must find ultimate attainment before we can move on. And so I actually believe that, if you genuinely deep down think you really need a Ferrari, then go get the fucking Ferrari. Go work your ass off and get it. If you genuinely feel like that's an actual need, that's something that needs to be accomplished in your life for you to feel fulfilled, then I'd say go for it. For me, becoming a millionaire in my 20s was something I needed to do. I thought I did it from a place of my dad's going to be proud of me. I did it from a place of needing to prove a lot to the world. And because of doing that, it got me over the thought of needing money. it's in accomplishing the goal that gets you over needing it. So the last, I don't want to be, it might sound contrary. I'm saying don't make a vision board, but if deep down you genuinely, after you ask yourself deeply, why do I want these things? If it's to make someone proud and all that kind of stuff, just admit to it and go and do it if that's what you need, because in accomplishing those goals will actually ideally lead to a realization that it's not those goals that will make you happy. It's not temporary happiness. It's actually deep fulfillment that you're looking for, and it will never come from something outside.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. That reminds me of Jim Carrey talks about that. I wish everyone could be rich and famous so they can see that's not where it's at.
Yes, exactly. And people read that quote and they're like, easy for him to say. And you're like, oh, you're not
Yeah. But he might just have some insight into this,
Mm-hmm. It's brilliant.
Well, Taylor, this conversation has been brilliant, my friend. I really, really have enjoyed connecting with you. What is the best way for others? You mentioned your site earlier. Is that the best way? How do people find you?
The website, wejourney.co. And what I would, what I'm like obsessed with right now is beautiful collaborations. And what I mean by that is, there's this community called Camp Rosé All Day, which is like this summer camp for adults that they drink rosé all day and they play like camp games and whatnot. We did this collaboration with them where they had this big community of people that comes to these summer camps, and they brought them on a journey. They brought like 20 of them to come and help build houses. So they called it Camp Rosé All Day, like gives back kind of thing. And so collaborating with communities of people that want to do something wonderful in the world is like my obsession right now. So if people that are listening are part of a community that meets for dinners every week or once a month or goes to music events together, whatever it is, anywhere there's like community gathering, those are the kind of people that I would love to talk to and talk about bringing them on a trip, bringing them down to Colombia or Costa Rica, or designing a trip around, Argentina and whatever kind of experience they want to have, whether it be action sports or homes or refurbishing a school or, whatever it is. That would be wonderful. And for that, my email is just the letter T at wejourney.co. So T at wejourney.co.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because, we set up a Positive Heads Facebook group a couple months ago, and it's just continued to grow, and a lot of people are supporting each other and connecting in real life. But it's been such a beautiful thing for me to see sort of, continue to grow. Yep. And one of the things that someone just posted the other day is, when are you going to do a retreat? When can we all get together? How, and I'm like, it's not if, but when the flow is right, when the time is right. So maybe we do something with the Positive Head listeners and put something together with you. That would be epic.
That would be incredible. And and you've got a couple, you would facilitate some sessions, you'd facilitate some conversations and do like a fireside chat. Like that's the whole goal, is like build an actual experience for this community where they get out of their, wherever they live, if it's in Denver or Orlando or Los Angeles, wherever they live, get them out of that. They meet a whole bunch of like-minded people, and the experience that they all get to have together through service is so profound. Like people leave these trips best friends. You're literally building a house for a family that did not have a house before. It's like tough to not bond like crazy over that, and then go to a place like Hotel of the Light, do a Mayan sweat lodge together, and then share your deepest, darkest secrets, because we're going to make you do that too.
Right. I have no doubt that Taylor's going to fry. I have no doubt about that. I've only spent a little bit of time with you, and I know you're going to go deep.
Yeah, Brandon, that'd be wonderful. We'll talk more.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more for sure. And I would like to leave you with one last question. I always open with the same question and end with the same question. In 60 seconds or less, the most cliche question of all times: what is the meaning of life according to Taylor Conroy?
Have fun.
Good answer. You have like 59 seconds left.
I could repeat it. Say it louder.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
We can edit it. Maybe I'll just put some delay on it.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to fill the 59 seconds, I would say, I think it's positive psychology where they talk about the 3 levels of happiness. They talk about temporary happiness, which is buying the red Ferrari or buying something that does give you the endorphin rush or the, serotonin boost. And it makes you happy temporarily, and it always goes away. Yep. And it always creates a hole, and it needs to be fulfilled more. Second level being what people call in flow. And so in flow meaning what you're good at. you're doing what you're good at, and you're challenged in a sufficient way. You're challenged in a way that, well, whatever, it challenges you. So it could be a stockbroker who's just incredible with numbers and sees patterns, and they know what they're good at, they're doing what they're good at, and so they can hit that flow state. And the third level of happiness is what they call a meaningful life, which is what you know what you're good at, you're doing what you're good at, and you're doing it in the service of others. And you ran into a perfect example of that, because you know what you're good at is facilitating amazing conversation. I've been on a lot of podcasts, and this is fucking top tier. This is legit.
Oh, thank you, man.
You know, this is what you're doing. You make it sound so easy that people will probably think that doing podcasts is easy. You know, you're very good at it. You know what you're good at. You're doing what you're good at, and it's being in massive service to a lot of people, which I know that all your listeners can attest to. So you are living a meaningful life.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I believe that having fun is living a meaningful life. It's working, it's being challenged, and it's doing what you're good at in the service of others.
I couldn't agree more. I really, really appreciate that, especially coming from you. And yeah, it truly is when you find sort of what you're good at, and and certainly tying that into service for others. For me, it's been the most rewarding experience of my life thus far. And it's just like, how do I do more of it? You know, and and really work becomes play. And you're right. Exactly. It's like, it is all about, that's the biggest thing that people miss, is you're here to experience joy and to have fun. It's not meant to be taken so seriously, and it's this heavy, load of how do I get through to the next day? And so many people fall into that, and we've all experienced it at some level, right? And how do you enlighten by just putting shit down and lightening up, quit carrying all this baggage. Yep, exactly, man. Thank you. It's been such an honor chatting with you. And likewise, my friend. Thank you for having us in your ears. I appreciate it. Big time. Yeah, absolutely. Until next time. Yeah. Thanks, Brandon. Well, everyone, that concludes this week's interview episode. If you have enjoyed this positive download from our hearts and minds to yours, please take a minute, give us a rating or review on iTunes, since iTunes is the holy grail of all things podcasting. Your good reviews help us to reach more listeners. Also, we would be extremely appreciative if you would tell your friends and family about the show. Our sincere intent with the Positive Head podcast is to spread positivity to the world because we're selfish, quite honestly. I say that jokingly, but really only halfway joking. I'm referring to the good kind of selfish, based on the knowing that we all get what we give in this life, because when we give, we're actually always giving to extensions of self, since we're all really one in the same consciousness, just in different bodies. So if you want to be a good selfish along with us by helping to spread the positivity, by all means, please proceed to shout about the Positive Head podcast from your rooftop. Otherwise, as you continue on your fabulous journey in this 3D reality, be sure to remember this: as long as you ain't dead, you're already positive ahead. Journey well, everyone, and thank you for being.